Hey everybody, this is Alex Merced from alexmercedcore.com, and in this video what I'm going to be doing is building another front end for that same Express Mongo to-dos API, this time in SolidJS. Now if you're not familiar with SolidJS, it's like if you took the best parts of Svelte and React and made them a framework, this is what you'd get. You have like the really sort of lovely way of writing code, which is called JSX, that you know well. So it has like a very React feel as far as your syntax goes. But it has a much more, the way it handles reactivity, the way it handles like pre-compilation instead of having a runtime, it's going to be a lot more like Svelte. And basically like, if you take advantage of everything Solid has to offer, so it's a little bit more granular. It has like a lot of different functions that kind of really help you define what's reactive and what's not. So it gives you a little bit more granular control over sort of like what should be reactive, which is going to allow you to write code, if you take advantage of it, that's going to be a lot faster than even Svelte. If you just kind of, just use the usual patterns and don't really take advantage of those tools, it'll still be faster than React, but maybe not as fast as Svelte. Svelte's makes your life really easy. It doesn't really like ask you to have to like think about things that granularly, and still gives you a lot of speed. SolidJS says, okay, hey, if you want to like write code that looks like React, but you want to have a little bit more granular control to write truly the fastest apps around, Solid is your boy. Okay, so let's get started. Let's build an app. Okay, so first let's just build a app. So I just want to copy this part. Okay, the rest I can do on my own. So let me just go apple folder. So npx dgit, paste the template name. Okay, and then I'm going to call this the SolidJS to-dos. Okay, so that's going to clone that template. Then I'm going to cd into it SolidJS, and then I'm going to run an npm install to install dependencies. And you can see this looks a lot like React. It does work very different under the hood, usually for the better. There are definitely things that will take a second to get used to, but they shouldn't be too hard to get used to if you're coming from React, because a lot of it's very similar to how you've done it in React. And then again, the speed. The only downside is it just doesn't have like a lot of the stuff that React has yet, far as like a server-side rendering framework and static site generation, all these things that make the React ecosystem super nice. And again, much smaller community, smaller than even Svelte's community. So there's that, but it's pretty cool. I would not be shocked if like 5-6 years from now, it's more of a debate like, do you write your website in Solid or Svelte? Like, and then I wouldn't be surprised if Angular then shifts into a much more pre-compilation direction. And then I'm not quite sure where Vue's placing is at that point. I love Vue, but like Svelte does a lot of things that Vue was trying to do pretty well. And then Solid helps take like what React is doing and bring in some of the benefits that Svelte brings. It's like those two kind of fill the gap with the nice new niceties. Although I did like some of the newer aspects of Vue from when we did the Vue build. So, there's a place for everybody. Okay, I like building apps and everything. They're all my favorite, right? Okay, so let's go to SolidJS. In our folder, it's going to look a lot like React. Okay, so see JSX files. Okay, you look inside the app component. Looks a lot like a React component, so that's the beauty of this. It's not going to feel horrendously different to switch over. But let's run the server first. Run dev. Okay, so that's going to be in localhost 3000. So let's just go localhost 3000. Okay, so you get the default Solid logo. I'm just going to bang this out. Okay. And see, we don't have to do class name. That's nice, because you're not dealing, all this stuff gets pre-compiled anyways. So you're not dealing with it at runtime. So we're gonna have Alex's to-dos. Okay, once again. Okay, and similar, we're gonna create two components, new file. No, not a new file, new folder. So if you've been watching my other builds, you kind of know where this is going. components. So we're gonna have a display.js and a form.js. Okay. And I do need to kind of bring in the boilerplate for them. So if I go look at app.jsx, there isn't much boilerplate, it's just a function. Okay. So export default function. I'll still give it a name. Display props. Okay. And then we'll just return return an h1 that shows display, just to kind of have something that we can see for the moment. And then here, same thing. We just copy that over. And then let's just change these over to form. Let's go import that into app. Get rid of this logo thing. Actually, just get rid of both of these. Not going to worry about CSS right now. Okay. Interesting way it does that. Styles. Okay, well, I'm not going to worry about that. Yeah, let's just get rid of styles. Get rid of this class so I don't get that warning down there. Okay. Let's import our components. Import display from ./components/display and import form from ./components/form. Okay, well, what's this saying? Failed to parse source from import analysis because the content contains invalid JSX syntax. If you're using JSX, make sure to name the file with a .jsx or .tsx extension. Okay, so here they're going. Here they need me to rename it. JSX rename JSX. Okay. So there we go. Now let's see here. Display. Let's just see if we even see these components to begin with. And form. Okay, goody. Okay. And okay. Sounds good. Now what's going to happen is that when you want to have state, we have the state's going to be referred to as signals here. Okay, so these are variables that when they're used in reactive statements. So your JSX is always a reactive statement. It's also referred to as an effect. Everything else, like all the code I want to write here, is not necessarily reactive unless I want it to be, in which case I have to wrap it in what's called a create effect, and then again, those things will look for any signals inside of them and then just reevaluate when a signal is triggered. So I need to first bring in that stuff. So import from solid. So I want to import create signal and create effect. Those are going to be sort of like your bread and butter in this framework. Okay. Cool. Okay. So essentially, let's create the state, and I'm going to be creating a similar state like I did before. Okay, so first thing I want to do is I want to create, well, first let's just create the URL variable. So const URL equals http/localhost 10,000. Again, if you haven't seen me make the API, the link to that video should be in the video description. Okay, and the next thing I want is the state for my to-dos. So const, this is going to be just like using useState, the useState hook in React. So it's going to be like to-dos, set to-dos equals create signal, and we'll initiate it as a empty array. Okay, and I'm going to be passing that as props to display. So to-dos equals to-dos. Okay, and right now what I want to do is create a function, const get to-dos. That's gonna go get the to-dos. Okay, const async function. You guys know the drill. Okay, then we do our whole thing here. Const response equals fetch URL. Again, we need to await that. And then we need to do a const data equals response.json. And then we're going to take the set to-dos and set our to-dos variable to equal the response from the API. Yay. I want this to happen on mount when the component mounts. So there is a on mount lifecycle hook. Okay. On mount. So this way it only runs it once. So even though I'm using signals, like get to do's has signals inside of it, like it won't run it more than once because I said so. Okay, get to do's. So in this case, we just put in a function in here that just says get to do's. Okay. Now, as far as I'm aware, there's no SolidJS dev tools yet, so you know, I'm flying blind in that regard. Okay, but that's fine. This is easy enough. Okay, and then what's going to happen here is that actually we import some stuff, more stuff from SolidJS, and I'm going to want a I think it's a map component. I forget. Map array. Let me just double check the solid documentation. Okay. Components. Has some special components. Docs. Stores, rendering, hydrate. Component APIs, here we go. Nope. Not that. Nope. Where would they be? Here we go. Control 4. Low. Suspense. Dynamic portal 4. This is the one I want. 4. Okay, and then it does. So basically, instead of using map, you use this 4 component. So I'm going to want 4 in here. So essentially what we do in here is we're going to return 4. Okay. Let me just look at that syntax again. For each props.todos fallback will just equal h1 loading. Okay, then I just put the code that I want in there. Okay. Yep. I forget, do I wrap as another function? Yeah, you do. Okay. So then it would be like to do equals, and then I would wrap the JSX in here. Div h1, actually we'll say h3, to do dot reminder. And if you like this whole 4 thing and you want to use that in React, I did kind of make a version of this inside my Merced React hooks library. So there's like a version of like a lot of these kind of control flow type components, so that way you can use them in React if you choose to. So that's a thing. Here it's a little bit more important because technically these built-in components in Solid are actually built to optimize the way it re-renders. So you could just map, but if you use the 4, it's going to be a little bit more optimized because it's built to kind of do that. Okay, I'm still going to put a key here. So to do dot underscore ID. And then we want it to say to do dot completed. There we go. Let's see if we see it. Okay. Let's refresh. It's loading. I think I made a mistake here. Take a look at my network. Oh, I didn't type in /todos in the URL. I did it again. Okay, /todos. Okay, this should fix it. Still doesn't like it. /todos. What are you? Okay, I got the to-dos. So where are we going wrong? We get in the to-dos. To-dos get sent down. Let's just see here. Let's console log props just to make sure if we're getting them. It's getting a function called to-dos. What am I sending down? Oh, I know why. I know why. Because it's a getter, so we get to do this. Actually, probably better if I just do it here. Boop. Like that. Valid array length. It's getting an object. Interesting. Okay, let me just take it out of here and take it out of here. Do I still end up in the same place? ¿Por qué? Props to-dos /todos. And here we have to-dos. Okay, and let me just do this. Create effect console.log to-dos okay, to-dos, then I get promise fulfilled. That's not right either. Ah, there's the culprit. I forgot to put the second await. Huzzah. Okay, so we can get rid of this now. Okay. To-dos. Okay, let's refresh. Still doing that, so let's do this. Let's think about this. What if I do that? Let's try it again. Okay, so now it's working. Not showing me the right. Did I spell completed right? To do dot completed. Okay. Not getting completed? False. So I guess it's just not knowing that show like. Okay, so what I'll do is I'll just do this. Use a ternary operator. So if completed is true, show yes, or we'll say completed. And if not, show an X. That work better for you? Okay, good. That works better for you. Fine. Okay. So we got the display. So we're displaying components and stuff. But you see, like that for is nice. And again, I want to make this form component conditional. So I'm going to bring in, there's a if component. Okay. Oh, no, not that. There we go. F. And then I can do this. So what I want to do is, again, create another signal, const show form, set show form equals create signal, and we're going to kick it off as false. And now I'm going to say if let's take a look at the documentation for the if for show dynamic suspenseless. I guess it's the show component's what I really wanted. Okay, show when fallback. Okay, so really what I want is show. Okay, so really what I want to do here is show when show form is true, and what I want to show is form. So let's just cut form out of there. Okay, so cool. So form will only show, or should only show. Let's go take a look. Let's refresh. Show. It doesn't like. Oh, looks like I have a typo. Right here. Should just be show. There we go. Good. But it's still displaying. Okay, when show form. Oh, okay. Does it want me to do this? There we go. Okay. Because you have to remember, like, it doesn't actually give you the variable. This is actually a getter function. That's the thing, like, that takes a second to get used to. It's actually giving you a getter function and a setter function. Sometimes you can just use the getter function. Sometimes it'll, like, when you're interpolating it, it'll be pretty good about just, like, knowing it's a function and grabbing the value. But when you're passing it as props, not so much. Then you want to pass the value as props. So you got to make sure you invoke that getter. Okay, so cool. So now let's work on the form. So let's make a button that, let's make the button so that way we can turn on the form. Button, create a to-do. Okay, and so for that we need a function, const toggle to do equals, and essentially what this will do is create or set show form to always be not show form. But again, we gotta invoke it to get the value. So should return false, and say not false, so that make it true. And then we want to make sure that this button, when it is on click, that we can then bind to it the toggle to do. Okay, so let's see it create a to do. Good, that works. Let's create the form. Okay, the form's just going to be your standard form component. Okay, with a an input that equals text. We're gonna have to do a controlled form, so it's gonna be a little bit more complicated. So this is gonna be like input type equals text, name equals reminder. We'll come back to the binding of values. Then input type equals checkbox, name equals completed. Come back to that. And then we have the input of type equals submit, name value submit. Just keep it submit. I'm not gonna get too fancy right now. Okay, so if I click on the button, there's the form. Good. Okay, so we need to bind these values. So I need to create state for the form. So I need to import create signal. So import create signal from SolidJS. So we say const form set form. Where did it go? Form set form. Okay, create signal, and we're going to create an object that has a property of reminder. Actually, what we're going to do is we're going to assume that we have a prop called initial to do. Okay, now let's just bind this. Value equals form dot reminder. Value equals form dot, and it's not going to be value, it's checked. Dot completed. Okay. Now I should not be able to type in this form. Reference error initial to do is not defined, so it just doesn't even want to like open up the form right now. So we need to fix that. App. So we're going to create another state. Const form to do. Set form to do equals create signal. Okay, and this is going to be an object with a property of reminder, which will be the default and an empty string, a completed property that by default is false, and a ID property that by default is an empty string. Okay. And to make this even easier, you see, because I'm going to need this a couple more times, I'm going to create a variable const empty to do equals, so let's make that object that, and then this will be initialized as empty to do. So that way later on when I need to reset it, I can just reset it to that. Okay, so that's just going to be just easier. Okay. And then we need to pass this as initial to do. So go to form initial to do equals form to do. Okay. And now if I click this, refresh. Initial to do is not defined. Initial to do. Oh, it's props that initial to do, that's why. There we go. Refresh. Yep, there we go. Okay. So now that that is set, now we need to create the onChange event. Okay, and if I remember right, it's not going to be onChange in this case. It's going to be like on input. Const handle change, because again the way the React handles the onChange event is kind of like different than the actual real onChange event, so what I want is something different. So handle change equals the event. I want the event. Okay, so I'm going to say const new form equals the old form, dot 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 form. And then we're going to want to check. So if well, there's only two inputs. Like in the React video, if you watch the React version of this, what I do is I do an if statement that checks whether it's a checkbox or not a checkbox. I guess we can do that again. Console.log event. I just have to like see what the event is again. I forget the exact property that I want. Okay, so if I do this and then I hit I gotta actually put that on here. So what on input? Yeah. On input equals handle change. That's the actual real, because basically Solid sticks to like the browser API as much as possible. So let's see here, make the form visible, and let's look at the console. I'll just hit one keystroke. Okay, there's the input event, and what I want to see is just what type. That's a type of input type event, but I want to know what the type of input is. So let's go to the target. Target is an input of type input somewhere it says it. Target is the input. Where do we see attributes type? That's there. That's one option. I think there should be a better option. Form. Nope. That. Okay, so what I'm probably going to use then is, let's go to one more part value length. No. What did I use last time? Labels, form, data set, classless children, child nodes. I guess we'll just use the attributes. Okay, and then the attribute being node value. Node. Yeah, I guess we'll just do that. Okay, so I know what I'm going to do. Okay, so we're going to do if event dot target dot get attribute type equals checkbox. Else we'll do something else. Okay, else we'll do this. And essentially what's going to happen here is that new form event.target.name will equal event.target.checked. Okay, and then here, new form event.target.name equals event.target.value. And then last we set the thing. So set form, new form. Okay. So now I should be able to type in this. So open up the console, let's refresh the page. Okay, I open up the form. Not getting any kind of errors. That all looks good. Okay, cool. So now we just need to figure out what happens when the form is submitted. Okay, so we'll go back up to app.js, and I want to make something happen when it's created, which reminds me that we need to somehow specify whether it is what are we doing? Are we creating or updating? Okay. So I'm gonna have to create another variable, const action, set action, and again by default the action will be create. So create signal string of action. Oh, create. Okay, and then we're gonna pass that down. Action equals action. Okay, and let's just start kind of setting up our handle submit. Const handle submit equals event, because we're going to need to prevent default. Event.prevent default, although I think that might actually by default be done in Solid. I think that might just not be something you have to worry about in Solid, but I forget off the top of my head. So then I want to do if action or props.action equals create. Then we will do this. Okay. And eventually what's going to happen is that this will be a props.create, and we're going to be passing it the form, this piece of state there, and it'll do its thing. Okay, so we just need to like create all that and then attach that to here. On submit equals handle submit. Okay. So let's create that create function. Okay, so const create to-dos equals async. Okay, I might as well make a reset state function as well. Reset state function. Reset state. Const reset state equals, and what this will do is set show form to false, set form to do to blank or empty to do, set action back to create. Okay, so that way that just kind of resets all of that when we need it, so I don't have to write all that every time. Okay, so create to-dos. What is going to happen? Create to-dos. Await fetch URL object method post, because we're making a post request, and then we need headers to tell it that we are sending over some JSON data. So that's content type application JSON, and then we need to pass in the body. Okay, which will just be JSON.stringify, and it's going to be receiving a to-do, so let's pass that in, to-do, and that'll receive it there. And then basically right after that's done, we will get a fresh list of to-dos with get to-dos again, and then we will also reset our state. Okay, and then that's that. Okay, And I might as well just make update to do's real quick while I'm at this. Just get all these functions out of the way. Okay, this is going to be update to do's. And then this one's going to happen is that it's going to receive plus slash the ID at the end of the URL. So to do dot underscore ID. Because this is the put route. So we identify what we're updating by the URL. And then that's good. And then we'll copy this over one more time to make the delete to do function. Delete to do's. That's going to receive a to do. We don't need this part. But this needs to be a delete request. And we did it. That works. Now let's see here. Things we need to do. We need to pass update and create down to the form. So we're just going to say create equals create to-dos and update equals update to-dos. Cool. So then I am going to go over here to form, and here I can just say that's already kind of set there, and then this one I can just set it again here. If props.action equals update, okay, then props.update form. Okay, so that should be let now handle updates and creations depending on the situation and what that action variable is. So right now I should be able to create at least. So let's see here, eat breakfast, eat lunch, create a to do. Let's create eat dinner. And that didn't do anything. So that's going to beg a few questions. First off, did the function run? Console.log. Actually, let's do console.count. And then we'll do a console.count before either of these. So that's a, did either of the if statements run? So eat dinner. Okay, so only one ran. So that's telling me that props.action is not evaluating to what I think it is. So let's go to console.log again, and let's console log props.action. Okay. Props.action. Oh, it's a signal, of course. That's right. That's right. Okay. Eat dinner. Now, it kind of worked. It created a new entry, but it looks like form didn't update. So that's going to be the next thing we need to check on. So that should be that, and then it's also console.log form. Let's do that every time we set it. Console.log form. Oh, that's right. It's a signal. Boo! That's definitely gonna take a second to get used to. Okay, so let's try this again. Create to do, eat dinner. Oh, it didn't like that. Why didn't it like that? Localhost. Okay, let's take a look at the network. Here's the failed request. Oh, it's because the property ID is in there. So we're technically going to want to remove that. Okay, easy fix. What we do is this. Cut. Okay, so we're going to say form data. So we'll say let f, meaning the form, equal form. And then we're going to say let to do equal an object where reminder is f.reminder and completed is f.completed. Okay, and then pass that to create, and that should be fine. Okay, so let's see here. Eat dinner. Yay! Okay, dinner works. Good. Okay. So we can create to-dos. Now all we need to do is just kind of be able to update. All we have to really do is be able to select a to-do. So let's create a function. Select to-do. Const select to-do to update. And what this is going to do, it's going to receive a to-do. And what it does, and it's going to set, what did I say that state as? Oh, we haven't created that yet. Oh no, we did. Set form to do. Set form to do. And it's just going to set it to that to do. Okay. And that should be good. And then we just need to pass that down to display. Select equals select to do to update. And what's going to happen is that here on the H3s, when you try to click on an H3, on click equals props dot select the to do, but we need to wrap that in an arrow function. So there we go. So it's a function that runs the function and passes the current to do into it. Because for each to do, yep, save. Okay. So now what should happen, and actually I select that to do, so a couple other things that should happen. I should also set the action to update. Okay, so that way it runs the update logic. Refresh. Oh, something is wrong. It doesn't like. Default. Display.js. Export. Default. Yes, it does. Perhaps that's like to do. Am I importing default from app.jsx? Display saying on line 8. That doesn't make any sense. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to restart the server. I think it's sometimes that happens. Yep, it just kind of went stupid. Okay. Let's click on this one. Oh, that's right. I didn't toggle the form along with it. Toggle. Toggle to do. Sure, fine. Refresh. Good. Let's just make this like eat more meals. It works. Let's see if I want to edit it again. Click on it. Can I change this to true? Ha! It works. Okay. Nice. Because again, what's happening is that when I click on one of them, it's triggering this select to do function, which sets that to do to the form to do property, changes the action to update. So now form is initializing the form. This initial to do is the thing I clicked on, and then when I submit, it's using the update scenario instead. So it works. Now we just have to do delete, and we are done. Which I just have to pass over to display. Delete to-dos, or we'll just call it destroy equals delete to-dos. Okay, and then all we have to do is just add like a button that says delete, and then add the on-click event. On-click equals curly brackets an arrow function that invokes the props.destroy function and passes in the to-do. And then that should be it. So I should be able to delete linner. But no, props.destroy is not a function. Why is it not a function? Let's go back to app. Delete to-dos is not a function. Delete to-dos. So this props.destroy, delete to-dos. Props.destroy here, let me just refresh. So let's click on eLinner. Okay, it is working. Okay, eat more meals, deleted. Okay, yeah. We have full functionality, we did it. We achieved full CRUD in SolidJS, which took me about the same amount of time as it did in React. It would have been faster if I had some of the nuances in Solid I was a little bit more familiar with, but yeah, it took about the same amount of time without routing. But again, we got to the same place. Same pattern as I did with Vue and Svelte. But with that, I will call this a wrap. I will upload the code. You'll find all of it in the video description. My name is Alex Merced from alexmercedcode.com. Do join the Slack and Discord community over there and devnursery.com. Have a great day and enjoy.